Well, hello there, everybody. This is Mike with Mike's Country Vinyl. I want to apologize for not putting out a video last week. We're a little bit under the weather, and of course, with Thanksgiving happening and all that kind of good stuff, we got a little bit of a delay. But this is going to be part two of the country rock episode that we started a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to go over some of our country rock albums for you. And I'm going to start out with one of my favorite groups, and they put out a number of albums, and really and truly, we lost Rusty Young last year. We lost Paul Cotton last year, and it's a shame. I think these guys really, my opinion, belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and this is Poco right here. This was self-titled album. This is when Rusty Young, Jimmy Messina, and Rusty Young, Richie Furay, George Grantham, and Timothy B. Schmidt, who later on went to the Eagles. Great album here. This has got picked up the pieces, and let's see what else we got here. Hurry Up, You Better Think Twice. Honky Tonk Downstairs, Dallas Frazier song. So, solid country rock album here. This is Best of Poco right here. And of course, Jimmy Messina, Richie Furay, Rusty Young, Timothy B., Paul Cotton, and George Grantham right there. Here's one of their later albums. It was called Head Over Heels. This is Timothy B. was still with them, but it was after Jimmy Messina and Richie Furay left. Here's probably one of the best albums. This had Richie Furay, Timothy B., Rusty Young, George Grantham, and Paul Cotton. I think this is the strongest lineup that they had. This had Fool's Gold, Brass Buttons, Gram Parsons' song, Crazy Eyes, Magnolia, Let's Dance Tonight. Good album. This is still on Epic Records. This is when they went to ABC, I believe. Yeah, ABC Records here. Here's a group from Louisiana called Louisiana's LaRue. They had a song, big hit called New Orleans Ladies. And it was a sort of a soft country rock type vibe to it, but it's still a good album. Another one, these guys are sort of like a one-hit wonder. They only put out one album. They had a hit song called Fallin', and this, what's really ironic about this song, I was still in retail. This is 1977, and I had just started in retail, I guess, when this album came out. But song Fallin', and I'm sure most of you have heard the song, it actually hit the bottom of the charts, and then all of a sudden radio stations started playing, and it wound up in the top 10. So it's one of the few songs I've ever seen hit 100 and then bounce right back up and hit in the top 10. So this is Lenny LeBlanc, Pete Carr, both of them well-known studio musicians. Do a version of Desperado on here, and of course Fallin', and then they had a little minor hit with a song called Midnight Light. Here's one of my favorite Johnny Rivers albums. Good album. He always had a country rock feel. He does a version of Gram Parsons' Brass Buttons. He also does a version of Rainy Night in Georgia. Slim Slow Slider. Good album. Got James Burton playing on here. You have Hal Blaine playing drums, Jerry Sheff on bass, Ronnie Tutt on drums. So he has had a lot of Elvis Presley's band on this album. And this is probably, in my opinion, the best album that Kenny Rogers in the first edition put out. And you see it's a gatefold. But they had some country stuff on here. Country, Jimmy Bowen produced this. Kenny Rogers was also helped. It's got Something Burning, Mac Davis. She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, Mickey Newberry. My Washington Woman, Dallas Frazier, Doodle Owens, Stranger in My Place, Sunshine Joe, Elvira, a version of Elvira before the Oak Ridge Boys hit with it. And here's The Man, Gram Parsons. Of course, everybody knows a story about Graham. This is an album he did with Emmylou Harris. Hearts on Fire, I Can't Dance, Brass Buttons, song that he wrote. Does a medley from Cash on the Barrelhead and Hickory Wind, Love Hurts. Great amount of talent on this album. Byron Berline, Linda Ronstadt, and Bernie Leadon. Of course, he gives special thanks to Phil Kaufman, who happened to be his road manager. There again, classic album, Grievous Angel. And probably this is my favorite country rock group. I love the Eagles, love Poco, but they're probably my favorite. And this is Pure Prairie League right here. This is an album that came out in 1976. In my opinion, one of the finest pedal steel players around, John David Call, was on here. Of course, Larry Goshorn was on here. Michael O'Connor, Billy Hines, Mike Riley. This is a very well put together group and extremely talented. I love their stuff. Here's their first album called Bustin' Out, and really what's ironic about this is Craig Fuller was part of this band, and he wrote the song Amy, which was a big hit. Well, he had left the band when Amy hit, and so the Pure Prairie League had to scramble and put a band together, but it did not include Craig Fuller. But the original members, Craig Fuller, George Powell, Billy Hines, Michael O'Connor, Al Briscoe played steel guitar on this one right here. Good, solid album, more of a folky country rock album. And of course, we're all heard of Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, but these guys, they sort of got the nitty gritty out of it and just made a dirt band out of it. But most all these guys were remnants of Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. This is a good album here too. Still had Jimmy Fadden, John McEwen, Al Garth, Jeff Hanna was still on here from the original Nitty Gritty. So good classic country rock stuff there. And this next lady is, in my opinion, the queen of country rock, and Linda Ronstadt. I love this album cover though. Silk Purse. I think it's may have been one of the last one of the last solo albums she did for Capitol Records. But it has Lovesick Blues, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, Long, Long Time, Mental Revenge. So, great album. A lot of great people. Let's just, I don't know if it has, I keep hitting my mic here. I need to bring it up here a little bit. No, it doesn't have liner notes or anything to it, so I can't tell who was on there. But there again, great country rock album. She had the pipes, and Capitol made sure that she had good players behind her. Let's go with this one here, since this is still on Capitol. Linda Ronstadt. Rock Me on the Water, Jackson Browne, Crazy Arms, an old Ray Price song. I Still Miss Someone, Johnny Cash song, I Fall to Pieces. Of course, Patsy Cline. Rescue Me, I think was done by Martha Vandellas, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong there. And let's take a look at this. Nice picture on the inside. And gives a lot of the credits and everything. Bernie Leadon, Don Henley, Randy Meisner, Buddy Emmons played pedal steel and Faithful. I Fall to Pieces, Sneaky Pete Kleino, Mike Bowden, Gib Gilboa. Oh wow, just an absolute. Weldon Myrick played pedal steel on one. Just an amazing album, great country rock album. Of course, everybody my age were all, most of us guys are in love with Linda Ronstadt. I got to see her a couple, 3 times. Of course, we had had the poster on the wall with the orchid in her hair and all that stuff. But ultimately, it was all about the music because he was an amazing singer, Linda Ronstadt, one of her first albums on Asylum, Don't Cry Now, I Can Almost See It, Love Has No Pride, Silver Threads, Golden Needles, a great version of Desperado, Colorado, Rick Roberts song. Just an amazing album. Alrighty, next one. We've all heard of the Flying Burrito Brothers. Well, how about taking off the flying and go to the Burrito Brothers? And this is John Beelan and Gib Gilbo. And this is after they basically was them. They hit the charts pretty good in 1980. But this is the Burrito Brothers. And here's another Burrito Brothers. I think this is the original album because it had Sneaky Pete on there and also Skip Batten was on here. But again, recorded for Curb Records. I know She's a Friend of a Friend was a hit. She Belongs to Everyone But Me was a hit. Does She Wish She Was Single Again was a hit. Good album. And of course, I got John Beelan to sign it for me. His son actually lives locally here on the central coast of California. And here's another one, Swamp Water. Another good album. Swamp Water actually was Linda Ronstadt's first backing band. They went on the road with her in 1971. And there again, this is John Beelan. And I'll pull it out here. Got a neat little fold out cover here. You see, here's all the guys there. John Beelan, had Gib Gilbo, Thad Maxwell, Stan Pratt on drums, guest artists Glenn D. Hardin piano, Curly Chalker, Jimmy Day on pedal steel, Herb Peterson on banjo and acoustic guitar, and Don Tweedy on baritone sax. But anyway, sort of cool. The record's not even been played. Haven't even played it yet. They also had another album that was released, I believe, on King Records. And I think it's still out there somewhere. I just haven't had the opportunity to round it up. Here's another one, Stephen Stills and Manassas. A lot of people say, well, how can they be country rock? Well, anytime you put a pedal steel on there, if you ever listen to It Doesn't Matter, listen to Colorado, all great songs. Got some pedal steel. Of course, we have Stephen Stills, Chris Hillman, Dallas Taylor, Paul Harris, Fuzzy Samuels, Al Perkins, pedal steel player, and Joe Lala, who was the, I believe, the drummer. But yeah, he did congas and percussion. Roger Bush is on here. Byron Berline, Bill Wyman played on here. Classic album. Here's a guy that was totally influenced by Roy Orbison. And of course, this is his best-selling album ever, You're Only Lonely, big hit. If You Don't Want My Love, White Rhythm and Blues, which was recorded by Linda Ronstadt. Trouble in Paradise, I think, was on one of the Souther Hill and Ray bands that we'll talk about here in a little bit. J.D. Souther, good country rock feel to it. Here's another group, sort of a one-hit wonder. And they may have had one or two other songs on the top 40, but this is Toby Bo. This album doesn't include it, but they had a hit called My Angel Baby, co-produced by Norbert Putnam, who used to produce Jimmy Buffett stuff. It's on RCA Records. If you find this album or the one with My Angel Baby, a couple of really good albums. Here's another guy that was known more for songwriting, but he's a country rocker. I mean, this album right here, Rob Strandlin, Bob Warford played on here, Dallas Taylor, which was with Stephen Stills Manassas, Tom Brumley played pedal steel guitar, but what he's really known for is him and Jack Tempchin wrote a song called Already Gone, which was a big hit for the Eagles. And this also includes his version of Hot Burrito No. 1, which was the Flying Burrito Brothers song that I think Chris Hillman and Grant Parsons wrote. But anyway, Rob Stramlin. And speaking of Souther, Hillman, and Furay, here's their 2 albums. This is the first one, Souther, Hillman, and Furay Band. Right here. Include Fallen in Love, Border Town, Safe at Home. These guys were put together to be a super group, because the Eagles had hit, and Asylum was looking for, the label head was looking for another super group, hoping to take advantage of the Eagles' popularity. But J.D. Souther, of course, was considered the 5th Eagle. Chris Hillman, Chris Hillman was originally part of the Byrds, Flying Burrito Brothers. Of course, the Souther Hillman Furay Band. Richie Furay, of course, part of Buffalo Springfield and Poco. And then on the back here, you've got Paul Harris, you got Al Perkins, and let's see, Jim Gordon was the drummer for them. So they had a great album. 1974, they had a great group, but it just did not click. I heard them play on rock radio, album-oriented rock radio, and this didn't hit. Here's their second album. Chris was telling me, when I had Chris sign this album for me, he was telling me about J.D. Souther, how he wanted this album photo shoot to be so meticulous. He was so meticulous about his hair that he spent all kinds of time trying to make sure his hair was combed right. And as you want to see, he had a little piece of hair hang down. And I don't know if he meant that to be or not, but that's how it did. But anyway, Chris said he was making sure his beard was just right, his hair was just right. And the last group we have, group from the 80s, they did real well on country radio. They were remnants of a couple of 3 different groups. This is John McPhee of the Doobie Brothers. That's Stu Cook of Creedence Clearwater Revival. David Jenkins was part of Poco. But anyway, not Poco, I'm sorry, Pablo Cruz. And this is a great album. It had Midnight Highway, Honey, I Dare You, Trail of Tears, all good songs produced by Jim Ed Norman. And then here's another copy. Here's another album, Southern Pacific, just titled that way. And this is basically the same, I think was probably the same lineup. Let me pull this out here and see if it tells me the lineup here. Okay. Tim Goodman was the lead singer. John McPhee. Keith Knutson, of course. Keith Knutson, part of the Doobie Brothers. But Jim Ed Norman was on there. Emmylou Harris actually sang background vocals on one of the songs. So I still love these guys. I still love to put on this album and play it. It's got, it's got a lot of country, but a lot of rockers to it too. So anyway, that's my second installment and final installment of my country rock albums that I have in my collection. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. And, again, I apologize for not having a video last week, but if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, hit the like button, hit share, make a comment, whatever. I know sometimes I get a little bit long-winded, but I really enjoy talking about what I have and giving you some information. So anyway, again, I want to thank you for watching our videos. And again, please like us, subscribe, make some comments. God bless. We'll see you next time.